This video is made possible by donations to the United States Lighthouse Society from people like you.
Great to be here today. Thank you so much, all of you, for attending this. Somebody asked me a while ago, how many people are you expecting? I said 300, 500, you know,
Right.
But this is the perfect number. So thank you all for being here. When I'm speaking like this, can you hear me over there? Excellent. I'll do my best. We'll all do our best. Competing with traffic, for one thing. Anyway, I'm Jeremy D'Entremont. I'm the historian for the U.S. Lighthouse Society, or USLHS, and this program today has been created by a partnership of the Newport Historical Society, the United States Coast Guard, and the U.S. Lighthouse Society. The USLHS is the largest and oldest lighthouse organization in the country. It was founded in 1984 and has thousands of members around the country. The mission of the society is to preserve and share the history and legacy of America's lighthouses and their keepers. Before we get into the program, I want to acknowledge our special guests today. First, we are very honored to have with us Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, who is right behind me here. And Senator Whitehouse will be speaking in a little while. We are, again, honored to have a number of people representing the United States Coast Guard. Of course, we have Chief Warrant Officer Nathaniel Sanchez, Commanding Officer of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Ida Lewis. Mr. Sanchez, where are you? There you are. And of course, the crew of the Coast Guard cutter Ida Lewis, right here. Is Captain Moon here? No?
Yes,
Oh, hi. Hi. Captain Young Mi, or Mimi Moon, is this Sector Southeastern New England Commanding Officer. Thank you so much for being here today. Chief Warrant Officer Ryan O'Hare, Commanding Officer of Station Castle Hill here in Rhode Island. Captain David O'Connell, District Prevention Officer. We have Sally Snowman. Where's Sally?
I was in the back.
In the back, okay. Sally, well, let me say who Sally is for people who don't know. She is the newly retired civilian keeper of Boston Light for the Coast Guard, and I would say a spiritual descendant of Ida Lewis, and a good friend of mine for many years. So great to have Sally here. From the Rhode Island General Assembly, we have Representative Lauren Carson of District 75 in Newport. Senator Don Ewer, forgive me if I'm pronouncing any names wrong, Senator Don Ewer of District 13, Newport and Jamestown. From the Newport City Council, we have Charles M. Holder, Council Chair and Mayor. And Mayor Holder will be speaking shortly. And also with us are Jean Marie Napolitano, Councilor at Large. Ellen Pinnock, First Ward Councilor. Somewhere. Lynn Segley.
Yes, very good.
Okay. Vice Chair of the City Council, and Colin Kennedy, the City Manager. Is Colin here as well? Maybe? Maybe not. Anyway, you can applaud for him anyway. If you want. We have some scout troops and leaders in attendance. We have Newport Troops 3B and 3G, Middletown Pack 77, or at least some representatives of the kids. Thank you for handing out programs. From the Ida Lewis Yacht Club right here in Newport, we have Christopher Arner, the Commodore, who will be speaking shortly. Is Sandy Carney here as well? No? Yeah,
Right here, Sandy.
Where?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. The first woman Commodore of the Ida Lewis Yacht Club, Sandy Carney. From the Newport Historical Society, we have Executive Director Rebecca Bertrand, who will speak shortly. I also want to acknowledge Jenny Sullivan right here, who is the Manager of Learning and Public Programs for the Society, and Jenny has played a big role in bringing this together, so thank you, Jenny. Also here today is Nico Reno. Nico is an award-winning filmmaker who is developing a feature film based on the life of Ida Lewis. Where'd Nico go?
Back there.
And see, don't worry, when the movie on Ida Lewis is made, it won't be shot on a cell phone, but helping out there. And I'm not sure where John Lopez, where'd John Lopez go?
John is right here.
Oh, you're kneeling down, so I couldn't see. I'm looking straight ahead, so I missed you. John Lopez, I have to mention him, even though he told me not to mention him. He's a conservation agent in Rockport, Massachusetts, also a marine safety and environmental protection specialist in the Coast Guard Auxiliary with the Marine Safety Unit, Portsmouth Harbor, New Hampshire. John and I have worked together on a couple of other similar events, the placing of these markers on keepers' graves, and this event grew out of a conversation John and I had several months ago. So here we all are. So thank you, John. So before we get to the first speaker, I just have a little bit more of in the way of brief remarks. Just a little bit about the history of lighthouse keepers in this country. From 1789 to 1939, our keepers were civilian employees of the federal government. In 1939, the Lighthouse Service was merged into the Coast Guard. And of course, today the Coast Guard continues to maintain our aids to navigation system, although the lights are now automated and traditional lighthouse keepers are a thing of the past. Nobody has an exact number, but the U.S. Lighthouse Society's online research catalog lists almost 22,000 American keepers. The vast majority were male, but there were more than 500 female keepers, including Sally. Of those, Ida Lewis is probably the best known, I would say, to lighthouse buffs. I would say definitely. I'll leave it to Lenore Skomal to tell you shortly more about Ida Lewis, but I'll give you one quote from Ida. When she was interviewed about one of her rescues, she said, quote, suspense. She said, quote, "I don't know if I was ever afraid. I just went and that's all there was to it," unquote. That quote obviously says a lot about Ida. It's also reminiscent of the motto of the old U.S. Life-Saving Service. You have to go out, but you don't have to come back, which is also the unofficial motto of the Coast Guard. The quote also exemplifies that lighthouse keepers in general simply did their job in all kinds of circumstances and never saw themselves as heroes. Most keepers never rescued people like Ida did, but simply by doing their job, they were saving lives every day. And of course, the United States Coast Guard carries on that legacy in the work they do for us every single day. I wanted to mention the origins of the Lighthouse Service Grave Marker Program. The bronze grave markers that are intended to be placed on the graves of U.S. lighthouse keepers have been developed by Richard Ryder, a U.S. Navy veteran and a descendant of a veteran of the U.S. Life-Saving Service. The marker program was championed by the late Tim Harrison, some of you knew him, editor of Lighthouse Digest magazine, and he was involved in a lot of placement, but a lot of lighthouse organizations around the country have placed these markers. In fact, let me show you what it looks like. It's right here, so you get a sneak preview. Everybody can see what the marker looks like. Bronze, a little heavy. Very high quality. Richard Ryder does a great job making these. So this will be on the grave shortly. So let me introduce today's first speaker. Our first speaker, Rebecca Bertrand, is the Executive Director of the Newport Historical Society. Where's Becca?
Thank you so much for including the Newport Historical Society in this event, and for all of your work to preserve not only the story of Ida Lewis's heroism, but for the rich maritime history that helps define this region. Thank you too for all the fellow speakers today, especially Senator Whitehouse for taking the time to be with us. Rhode Island is incredibly fortunate to have a congressional delegation that fully believes in the importance of historic preservation, and Senator Whitehouse, you're right behind me, you continue to be a champion for our work nationally and locally, and we deeply appreciate it. Ida Lewis was an ordinary person who, when faced with extraordinary circumstances, met the moment and showed that there is bravery in all of us. So much of what we do at the Newport Historical Society is to preserve and celebrate these kinds of stories, the stories of men and women who lived and labored in our city by the sea, and whose lives and decisions helped shape the arc of history. One of the reasons that I'm so excited to be with you today, beyond the fact that Ida Lewis is a historic figure worth remembering and honoring to this day, more than a century after her death, is that right now, at this moment, people are paying attention. With the 250th anniversary of American independence on the horizon, there's been a welcome surge of interest and enthusiasm around our history. People want to know more about where we collectively come from and how our communities have taken shape over the centuries. We have an incredible opportunity right now before us to make history fun, engaging for all ages, and help connect history to our lives and culture today. When we get it right, when we truly make history come alive, we aren't just educating people about the past, we're enriching their lives in the present. And that's certainly what we're trying to do at the Newport Historical Society, and I invite all of you to become a part of it. You're already advancing our work by being here today and honoring the brave Ida Lewis, a lighthouse keeper who herself shines a light on why it is so important that these people, their stories, and the artifacts that capture them are not lost to time. So thank you for remembering her story. Thank you for preserving this important history. And I invite all of you to join us many more times this year and next as we make the most of this moment and use the nation's semi-quincentennial to make history more accessible to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next, we are honored to have Newport Mayor Charles M. Holder with us. Mayor Holder.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to be here to honor Ida Lewis and her legacy, especially on this Memorial Day weekend. So I want to thank my fellow councilors for being here today as well. And you know, growing up in Newport, you kind of take for granted a lot of the history that we have around us, and it takes ceremonies like this to really have it hit home that how important these people are that, you know, for hundreds of years have done and made such an indelible ink on us. This is my first time at this site, to be honest with you. I wasn't even sure where exactly it was. I've been to the Yacht Club many times, you know, and I've seen pictures of it, but to be here today really means a lot. So in this honor, I have a certificate of recognition that I want to give to Officer Sanchez. Chief Warrant Officer Sanchez, with you of the USCGC Ida Lewis, in tribute to your honorable stewardship of the legacy entrusted by Ida Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next speaker is Chris Arner, who's the Commodore of the Ida Lewis Yacht Club. And I just want to say, I know a lot of you know this, but the Ida Lewis Yacht Club was formerly the Lime Rock Lighthouse, where Ida Lewis lived. And after she died, it was renamed the Ida Lewis Light. Only time in American history that I'm aware of that ever happened. And then it became the Ida Lewis Yacht Club. So, Chris Arner.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today and for allowing me to speak in honor of an extraordinary local and American hero, Ida Wally Zoraida Lewis, known to us as simply as Ida. It's truly moving to see such a large and dedicated group of members, supporters, and guests gathered here. Your presence is a powerful reminder of just how deeply Ida's legacy continues to resonate. It's a beautiful day to celebrate her accomplishments. Though I have to say, considering the woman that we're honoring, the weather may be a little too nice. Ida, I hope you can forgive us for this. I imagine you would have preferred the ceremony to take place a few days ago in a torrential downpour and gale force winds. This ceremony speaks volumes about the admiration and respect so many still feel for Ida. It's a testament to a legacy that has not faded with time. It reminds us that history lives on through people who continue to remember, honor, and uphold it. Today, Ida's legacy lives on not only in the stories told and the history we preserve, but also in the places that proudly bear her name. The Coast Guard cutter Ida Lewis, Lewis Drive at Arlington National Cemetery, and of course, right here in Newport at the Ida Lewis Yacht Club, which proudly honors her spirit every day. On behalf of the club, I would like to extend our deepest thanks to those who made this meaningful ceremony possible. The Newport Historical Society, the United States Coast Guard, the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary, and the U.S. Lighthouse Society. Your support, partnership, and commitment to honoring Ida's remarkable life of service has brought us together in a truly special way today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next is our keynote speaker, Lenore Skomal. Lenore is the winner of multiple awards for literature, biography, and humor. Lenore's book on Ida Lewis, The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter, was originally published in 2002, and it is absolutely far and away the best book ever written on Ida Lewis. And Lenore's a friend too, so Lenore?
You had to say that, right? Can everybody hear me? Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you all for coming today. I know Ida would be daunted to see all of you. I'm going to quote from her eulogy. "Let no one think that Ida Lewis can be buried. Her worn-out form may be placed beneath the clods, but still where there come a traveler from near or from far to look upon her grave. To him, she will still be alive, and so will be with us. We will tell our children, and our children will tell their children, the tale of the rescues of this lighthouse keeper and the harbor of Newport. She has achieved immortality." That was spoken 114 years ago, and she did not achieve immortality. Unfortunately, within 3 decades after her passing, Ida Lewis was pretty much forgotten from the American conscience. Perhaps not here in Newport, thanks to the Yacht Club being named after her. But when I met Ida Lewis about 35 years ago, and I met her in a research room, I realized there was a lot of misinformation about her life. And I think one of the challenges we have as a country, or perhaps as a world, is that we mythologize our heroes. And when we do that, we dehumanize them to some degree. And all of these people are people, and Ida was a person. So what I'd love for you to take away today is a little bit more about who she was. Not just about her achievements, not just about her bravery and her heroism, which, you know, we can't discount that, but she was also just a human being. And that's how she wants to be remembered. She wants to be remembered as who she was. She was born in 1842 on February 25th on Spring Street, about 2.5 decades before the Civil War broke out. Gives you a time reference. She was the eldest of 4 surviving children. Her brother, who was older than her, died when he was 9 years old of pneumonia. And we don't begin to understand what impact that might have had on her, but it certainly had an impact on the family and on her father, because her father raised her as a son. And this was a time when girls were not encouraged to be athletic, to not compete. She was a swimmer. People did not swim in the 1840s, unless they were mariners. It was not a sport. It was not a novelty. She also knew how to oar a boat quite well, and she also knew how to rescue people, and that was thanks to her father, Hosea. Hosea was a captain in the cutter service, the revenue cutter service, which was the predecessor to the U.S. Coast Guard, but because of ill health, he had to retire. So the government appointed him as the first lighthouse keeper of Lime Rock Light, which was brand new. It was just a light on the clump of rocks. 3 years later, the government finished a house so he could move his family to Lime Rock in 1857. This was a pivotal event in Ida's life. We all have pivotal events that sort of lead us to our destiny. This one was one of them, because 4 months after they moved into that house, Hosea suffered a debilitating stroke. It left him incapable of doing the most simplest of tasks, and he certainly couldn't fulfill his responsibilities as a lighthouse keeper. So Ida stepped up at 15 years old. So you could say she became a lighthouse keeper at 15 years old, because she took on those responsibilities while her mother, Ida Walla Zoradiah, she took on the responsibilities of raising the rest of the family, keeping the house, and taking care of the property. It was a division of labor. Also that year, which we would have never known about, she rescued 4 young boys about her age. They were messing around in the harbor on a boat. They capsized. They couldn't swim. So she rowed out, rescued them all. They were embarrassed. They were from wealthy families. She was from a working class family, and nobody knew anything about it. It wasn't until 11 years later that the world would learn about this her first rescue, which leads us to the second pivotal event, which was when she was 27 years old. It was March 29th, and I know it's hard to believe that on March 29th you would have a big snowstorm come in, or is it? I don't know. It was March 29th in 1869. It was unseasonably cold, and a storm came in, and 2 soldiers trying to get back to Fort Adams decided to cut across the harbor by renting a skiff from a young boy. The storm had come in. The boy didn't know what he was doing. He capsized. The boy drowned, unfortunately, and these 2 were clinging to the hull of the boat. Ida's mother said, "There's problems out here, Ida." She jumped in the boat with her brother. They rescued these two soldiers. This is the event that put her in the limelight, in the international limelight. Why? Well, a report had to be made because these were soldiers, and obviously they were late back to the fort. They had been involved in an accident. All of that used to go through the wire services to be dispersed to Washington. Remember, we're now in 1869, so it's 4 years after the end of the Civil War. The wire services were very, very important in order for the rest of the country and the territories to understand what was happening in the war in the areas where there were battles. So it had now become sort of part of the media. So this little blurb about this tiny woman rescuing these 2 drunk guys made it to newspapers all over the place, including across the pond, including in England and in Wales and Scotland. And a reporter in New York read it and thought, well, this is crazy. This must be some strong gal. So he decided that he was going to take a trip to Newport in April. He wrote an article about her, huge article about Ida Lewis, and it was published and it was picked up by the wire service. So by July of that same year, remember this happened at the end of March, we're in July, less than 4 months, Ida Lewis, they had renamed the 4th of July Ida Lewis Day. It's a parade. They took up a collection. They gave her a new boat. They ran her around town on the back of a carriage. She got in the boat. She rode back to Lime Rock and thought, oh my God, I thank God that is over with, right? So if you think about it, you have this woman who is not used to any attention whatsoever, getting all the attention all the time. That summer, her father documented that she had 10,000 visitors over the course of those 3 months. Do the math. It's quite a few people every day. And she's trying to do her job. She's not hanging out signing autographs, okay? So this was what happened to her that I'm sure I would have loved to have had that conversation with her when it happened, but she was not prepared for this. She wanted nothing to do with this. It's not like today where everyone wants their 15 minutes of whatever. This woman wanted nothing to do with that. And when it came down in droves. Everybody wanted to see this woman. Everybody wanted a piece of her. So to give you an idea about her size, she was probably an inch taller than me. She was 5'3". She was 103 pounds, very slender woman. And she wore the style of the day, which was a corset, but it was a steel corset then, not whalebone. Think of that when you're running out in the winter to rescue people. And she wore 10 yards of skirting in her skirt, as well as undergarments. as well as lace-up boots. This is how she rescued people, okay? She wasn't in a sou'wester. So considering just that impediment alone and her size, you think, how could she possibly have done this? Her personality, if you'd met her on the street, she probably wouldn't have talked to you. But if you did try to talk to her, she was taciturn. She wasn't rude, but she did not suffer fools. Let's put it that way. She was what we would call a typical Yankee woman. She had a job, she was going to do her job, and that was it. Get out of my way. So she was not the person you would pick as a celebrity. All right, but yet offers of marriage came in sight unseen. I think there was something like 700 mothers writing to her saying, marry my son, here's money. Gifts came in. They wrote a mazurka about her. They had a vaudeville show they wanted her to star in. She was like, no, I don't think so. Because she didn't want any of this. But she couldn't get away from it because now, as we know, when fame grabs you, you're on the map, for good, bad, or indifferent. Her most famous and daring rescue, because she had quite a few, but her most famous and daring rescue was the one that gave her, I think, the highest achievement. And I know for a fact that she very much valued this, because I was privileged to actually look at her last will and testament, where she itemized all of the items that she kept. And this was top of the list. She, in February of 1881, again, bad winter, 2 soldiers, yet again, drinking yet again, decided they were going to walk across the bay. Okay, and obviously there were some soft spots, and they went through the ice. Ida was sick. She was not well. She was suffering from the flu, but her mother said, there's another problem out here. So without shoes, she ran out, she grabbed a rope, she had a towel around her neck, she called to her brother Hosea to join them. Oh no, it was Rudolph. Long story short, she gets out there and she is trying to pull these 2 men out of this hole. Okay, hypothermia is a thing, right? So they pull her in. Imagine this. Now her skirts are wet. You ever wear wet wool? Gets heavy. And she manages to get herself out and get these 2 gentlemen out of the water. Gets them back to the house, they warm up, and that's when everything goes crazy, because there has to be a formal investigation. There has to be, they depose her, they depose her mother, they depose all the witnesses, the gentlemen. So all of this is public record. And that's why I know what happened, because I'm not making any of that up. So long story short, she was so revered because of this small act. The parents of these 2 men wrote her letters. It's quite touching when you read through some of those documents. She was awarded the Gold Life-Saving Medal, first class, which is sort of like tantamount to the Congressional Medal of Honor for a civilian. And it was a beautiful medal. It was a beautiful medal, and that was her most cherished possession, because it felt very sincere to her, you know, to have gone through that process and to have earned it. But despite of all of this, Ida's fame, her accomplishments, the way that everyone wanted to be in her grace, she was always in her mind a lighthouse keeper. The heroism, that was never a thing. It was, this is my job, this is what I do. And interestingly enough, Newport Society looked at her as a Newport attraction. She was never invited to tea at the Astors. She was never invited to a garden party at the Vanderbilts. She was left on her lighthouse. I don't know if that hurt her or not, but I think there's a level of exploitation there that I think many heroes go through in the course of their lifetimes. So as Ida watched herself catapult to international fame overnight, she also watched herself be summarily forgotten. And by the end of her life, even though this woman had entertained President Ulysses Grant, Admiral Dewey, General Sherman, countless war heroes and politicians and dignitaries would go out of their way to meet this woman. With all of that, at the end of her life, she was a nobody. And actually, there was a beautiful article written about her about several months before she died. It was a year before she died. It was called Ida Lewis, the Half-Forgotten Heroine. So she passed away October 24th, 1911. She had a massive stroke. She was 69 years old. Her funeral, though, 75,000 people came out. The flags flew at half. They closed the stores. She was laid in state. So in her death, she was revered. The one thing she could never really understand, and if you read all of the quotes from her, when anyone asks her, how did you do it? And Jeremy read one of them earlier. How did you find the strength to rescue these people? she said, well, first of all, she said, the light is my calling. It wasn't even a job. It was a calling. It wasn't a career. It was something she felt deep inside her. And I think folks in the military can understand that. It's that sense of like, this is bigger than me. I have to show up. And she also never understood why they made such a big deal out of the rescues. So I'll end with her quote. We have only one life to live, and when time comes, we've got to go. Doesn't matter when or how. I never thought of danger when people needed help. At such times, you're busy thinking of other things. Thank you so much.
I just want to acknowledge a few people that I should have said before, but we have representatives of at least 4 Rhode Island lighthouses here today, and I think they're kind of scattered here, but we have representatives of Beavertail Lighthouse in Jamestown, right here in front of me. Great group here. I know these people well, they're fantastic. Rhode Island Lighthouse, is Sean the director here? Sean O'Connor? Anybody here from Rhode Island? Here in Newport? No? Okay, I thought they might be, but we have Simon Thomas, owner of Bristol Ferry Lighthouse, right here. Beautiful place. I just interviewed Simon there not too long ago. We have representatives of Palm Rocks Lighthouse in East Providence. Where's Judy Ann? Judy Ann there is also the Vice President of the American Lighthouse Foundation as well. So I also want to acknowledge one person who's not here, but I think it should be said. My friend Rear Admiral Dan May, Coast Guard retired, had a lot to do with putting this together, with helping John pull some of the threads together and that kind of thing. So I did want to mention Rear Admiral May. So at this point, again, we are very honored to have Senator Sheldon Whitehouse with us today. And I'm going to let Senator Whitehouse take over at this point. I think he has a presentation today.
Thank you, Historian Don Tremont. I am honored to be here on behalf of the congressional delegation, Senator Reid, Congressman Amo, and Congressman Magaziner, and to be joined by Councilman Seglia and Councilman Napolitano and Mayor Holder and Representative Carson. It is terrific to have this turnout here. Although I'm representing the delegation, I'm also a Newporter, and I share the very special affection that all Newporters have for Ida Lewis. She sort of, as Ms. Skomal said, went out of phase for a while and got forgotten, but not by us. So Commodore Arner, thank you for being here. Executive Director Bertrand, thank you for your remarks. Ms. Skomal, thank you not only for your remarks, but more importantly for your book. And thank you to all of the modern lighthouse keepers who are keeping these beautiful structures going here in wonderful Rhode Island. My biggest thank you, of course, is to the United States Coast Guard. They have adopted Ida Lewis when the lighthouse keepers were taken into the Coast Guard many years ago. She and her legacy came with that, and they have honored her by naming a Coast Guard cutter, the Ida Lewis. So to Captain O'Connell, here from the Boston office, but he actually just lives right over the bridge in Jamestown, so not quite the trek you thought. To Captain Moon, thank you also, but most particularly to Chief Warrant Officer Sanchez and the crew of the Ida Lewis. We're here to honor you for keeping her memory intact as well. Just a quick word on Ida Lewis. She's famous for the rescues, which some of us believe numbered 18 lives saved, but it could have been more. I don't know that there's an official count. But nearly as important and amazing as those 18 saved lives were nearly 50 winters on Lime Rock in the middle of Newport Harbor, sometimes alone, in winters that were so cold that the harbor froze over enough for drunken sailors and soldiers to venture out onto the ice and try to walk across it. There's a special kind of persistence, of patience, and of self-confidence that it takes to live out there alone with all the physically arduous demands of keeping the firewood stocked, keeping the food in the larder, rowing across to downtown Newport in order to do all of that. So while she had these moments of striking heroism, they stood on a platform of a remarkable sense of duty and courage and determination, simply the way she went about her life. So I'm delighted that we're all remembering her here today. And Chief Warrant Officer Sanchez, on behalf of the delegation, I have a certificate of special recognition for you and for your crew.
One thing I want to mention is that I think it's going to happen after the ceremony is over. There will be a placement of a Coast Guard flag on Hosea Lewis's grave right next to Ida's, because of course Hosea was a keeper as well. Maybe we'll come back sometime and do a bronze marker there, but we do want to recognize him today as well.
Right. Good afternoon, Senator Whitehouse, state representatives, Mayor Holder, Newport City Councilors, Captain Moon, Captain O'Connell, distinguished guests, scouters from Troop 3B, 3G, Pack 77, friends, families, my family, my amazing crew, and community of Newport. And if there are any pleasantries I may have missed, welcome. I am Chief Warrant Officer Nathaniel Sanchez, and I am currently serving as the 11th Commanding Officer aboard Coast Guard Ida Lewis, aka the mother of all keepers. Which is also the first 14 keeper-class ships named for our famous and heroic lighthouse keepers. Thank you, Senator Whitehouse and Mayor Holder. I am overwhelmed with gratitude and with great respect, deeply thankful to accept the recognition you both presented to my crew. To say that I am honored is an understatement. There are no words that could really define this moment. Being in the presence of so many great people to honor a heroine is truly one of the greatest experiences I could ever ask to be a part of, much as stand here and have the opportunity to say a few words. Everything you have already heard really gives you a sense of who Ida Lewis really was. The Ida Lewis you have heard all about thus far paved the way for the Ida Lewis of today, Coast Guard cutter Ida Lewis, that is. The cutter was commissioned on April 12, 1997, and has since been serving the nation, the greater southern New England region, and more notably the city of Newport for 28 years. Coast Guard cutter Ida Lewis is responsible for 357 floating aids navigation spanning several seaports from Massachusetts to New York. Her crews, both past and present, daily carry her legacy with honor, respect, and devotion to duty, and we will continue to do so well into the future. Today's Coast Guard looks a little different. However, some things are still similar and relevant to her time. Today, the Coast Guard manages 6 major operational mission programs. The operational programs oversee 11 missions codified in the Homeland Security Act of 2002. I'll touch on 2 of these missions that her namesake and principles perpetuated from, to which are still relevant to this day: search and rescue and aids navigation. Search and rescue is one of the Coast Guard's oldest missions, minimizing the loss of life, injury, property damage, or loss by rendering aid to persons in distress and property in the maritime environment has always been a Coast Guard priority. The aids navigation mission dates back for centuries, ensuring the safety of mariners at sea and the uninterrupted flow of maritime commerce as part of the maritime transportation system, which included the manning and upkeep of lighthouses. Ida Lewis played a key role for today's maritime transportation system and did so with the unmatched level of dedication, selflessness, and courage. Emblazoned on the ship's crest, the motto, Semper Vigilans, or always vigilant, serves as a guiding principle to the 23 men and women assigned to her. These sentinels strive to uphold the perseverance and determination Ida Lewis embraced daily, and do so with the grace and courage their ship's name represents. As a small crew, we consider ourselves a family with Ida Lewis at the helm, and are extremely proud to serve aboard her, execute her missions in service to our nation, and boast her name in every opportunity that we can. It has been an honor serving as a commanding officer alongside this amazing group of individuals you see right over here. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Seaman Ashley Strout enlisted person of the quarter will place the U.S. Lighthouse Service plaque upon the gravesite. B1 Seth Miller, our enlisted person of the year, will place the U.S. flag upon the plaque. Thank you all for coming, and Semper Paratus.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez and crew. I just want to say it's obvious the dedication and devotion of Ida Lewis is very much alive in the commander and crew of the Ida Lewis. So I think that brings us to a close at this point. Just a little bit of business here. I'm parked first here, so if anybody is in a hurry to leave, you have to wait for me to leave. I'm going to pull around into the other entrance to the cemetery, so just give me a couple of minutes there. Thank you so much for being here today. Enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Jeremy.